The Perimeter is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios. Speak Studios. Speak and be heard. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you by our official title sponsor, Mercedes-Benz of Spokane. Experience the best or nothing at Mercedes-Benz of Spokane with Dan Crowley and his exceptional team. They're located in beautiful Liberty Lake and his local family-owned dealership under Skee Automotive. Their staff prides itself on a personable and memorable experience from service to sales and will have you leaving the dealership feeling satisfied with a smile on your face all the way down the road. Back-to-back winners of the Best Civil Laurel Award receive invoice pricing on any new Mercedes-Benz in stock when you come in and mention the Perimeter podcast. You can check out all their available inventory at SpokaneMercedes.com, as well as stay up to date on all things Mercedes-Benz via their Facebook and Instagram pages. Call them at 509-455-9100 to schedule your Mercedes test drive today.
The Perimeter brings no-lie craft brews onto the podcast. Born and raised in Spokane, USA, No Lie Brewhouse is a hometown and international competitor made here. Their beers have traveled and won medals against the best breweries around the world. Over 46 international brewing medals and counting. They are not content, and they're always pushing forward to peak results. Grab a sixer, and let's get into the podcast. Hey, Brennan here, executive producer of the Perimeter Podcast. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to the Perimeter with Adam Morrison over the last couple of months. This podcast has been such a delight to help make, and I'm so excited to see where this show goes in the future. I also just want to give a big shout out to everyone who voted for us in Inlander's Best Of. We take great pride in making a podcast for the people of Spokane, the region, and really appreciate all the support you have shown in these last 2 months. So, without further ado, here is the Best of the Perimeter with Adam Morrison. Peace.
Welcome to the Perimeter with myself, Adam Morrison. We have the one and only Corey Kispert, now the former Gonzaga basketball player, first team All-American, WCC Player of the Year. So let's go over the Final Four. Okay, that's what everybody's going to want to talk about a little bit. And, you know, I covered the game, so obviously I was there live. And UCLA game, okay, one of the all-time classics. Everybody knows that. Play after play after play was made. What do you think was like the biggest play in the game besides Jalen's three? Was it your putback? When was your putback?
That was OT, 2 minutes left to go.
It was a weak side. You pinned the guy on the backside on the block. It was perfect. You got
board. Yeah, you snuck in right at the last minute.
Yep, you got there. Or was it Drew's charge was crazy?
Yep.
To have the nuts to do that is wild because it's easy for a ref to just going that way. You know, they want to make that call.
Yeah, they love it.
Or, you know, they don't call anything. A weird play, a guy falls down. It comes up short, kind of like the OT Truzang. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's so many things instead of just trying to wall up and jump. Then I thought Andrew's three was fantastic. So what do you think was the biggest momentum changer in that game?
I think it was Drew's charge. Yeah. And the reason I say that is, I was standing right there and we were going to Jalen and I were going to switch a ball screen up top and Juzang refused it and went the other way. Yeah. And I turned around and I looked and there was nobody there. And I saw the back of Juzang's jersey and I was like, shit. Yeah. It's we're done.
Yep.
And Drew's been taking charges for us all year long. And the crazy thing about that guy is he's so loose and has a bunch of fun on the court, but he just moments don't get to him. That's just part of how his brain works, and so he just stepped up and took it. And people can debate whether or not it was a charge or made the right call.
I try to be as unbiased. Sorry to cut you off, but his feet were above. He was in legal guarding position. He took it on the chest. You're check mark.
Right.
So
absolutely, it just was the moment that people are like, you can't call a charge that late in the game, and I'm like, yes, you can. But
yes.
I agree. Everything was lining up. He got there. He's hands up, he was ready to take it. And I had a good feeling they were going to call it. But the way that Juzang was playing and the way he was shooting the ball, when I saw the back of his jersey going to the rack, I was like, we're done.
Tough cover, man. That kid was good.
Yeah. He was just making everything. He's shooting 17-footers and not
nobody shoots those.
Not hitting the rim, yeah.
Nobody shoots those anymore either. Mm-hmm. That's what's crazy. He's a mid-range type of kind of old school player, which sounds funny, but like jab and go and pull-ups and everybody now is like an analytics guy fall out of his chair if he watched him play. Bad shot, but so obviously you get into overtime. So I agree. I think Andrew's three had a lot of stones because would you guys run that early slip play earlier? You ran it to Drew, they scored, and then he tried to get it to him. They guarded it.
Switched it.
They switched it, and then he hit the step back, which was because he's shit. Andrew's a good shooter, but he didn't shoot the whole game.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And he was in the game, but he wasn't in a rhythm offensively. So obviously I thought, I was like, when I was calling, I was like, that's ball game.
Yeah.
Here we go. Good job, UCLA. Thank you for coming. And then they come down and tie it or whatever. I can't remember the sequences, but so you get to overtime. You go to Drew, 3 straight times?
Yep, and he
scores every single time.
I'll get every single time.
And that's when I was like, okay, for sure they've shot their wad. It's fucking over with. And they still came back. Would they hit? Did they hit a three that next sequence?
Yeah, we had like a coverage miscommunication with coach. He wanted us.
Did you overhelp on one in the corner?
Me. It wasn't me.
You did that once in the game, so my bad.
No, you're good. No, that happened. That definitely happened to me once or twice. But
it happens.
We had a coverage miscommunication, and we went to go double, and they kicked it to freaking Juzang. Yeah, hit a three,
wide open three.
Yeah, and then and then the next time down, I mean, the whole game, it felt like, all right, like, we took their best punch. Like, we're going to break this thing open. It's 15, 20 points, no problem. And every single time, like, they just hung around, man. They're like cockroaches. But, no, I mean, and then Drew, credit to him. He just kept getting bucket after bucket after bucket. And we made a few free throws. And, one thing led to another. And then, obviously, Jalen's shot cut it.
So, what Drew Zhang drives, it's hard to say multiple times fast, and misses, gets it back, puts it in. Do you have any inclination in that situation? I know in the college game you can't advance it. Are you thinking timeout there, Corey, because you took it out? Mm-hmm. Are you thinking throw ahead and timeout, or as Fewy always told you guys, just get it and go?
I think it's always been get it and go. And if we have time, call timeout, at the advanced spot. Okay. So like past half court. So I just got it, turned and threw it to Jalen, and we were like 3 seconds at that point. And so, I mean, if I was the coach, I think coach made the right choice. Just let him go.
Yeah.
But I was fully prepared to play another 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I as a broadcaster, obviously I was sitting there going, I was ready to go. If there was a timeout, okay, Mo, what do you think they're going to do? You know what I mean? I was already in that mode and then getting into the OT mode. So, what was it like? I made some game winners or whatever, not a clean at the buzzer, but 2 seconds left, 1 second left. What's the emotion like during one of those? I want you to explain it to the people listening. I mean, obviously it's crazy, but like, you're never going to forget that feeling.
No, it's just like, I just couldn't explain. Like, people were calling me after the game. Like, I just could not explain the way I was feeling. Yeah. It's just one of the true times where I haven't been able to like express myself, like express what I'm feeling. Yeah. And disbelief was one of it. Like, I was definitely ready to play another overtime, and just so happy for Jalen because I know how much it means to him. Yeah. Like, he is so unique compared to anybody like him who has the talent level that he has. Like, the amount of buy-in he showed to the team and how much he like genuinely cared about Gonzaga when he had every right to not.
Oh, it was tremendous.
It was unbelievable. That guy is a stud. And he made it, obviously, just immediate tears, couldn't stop crying for like an hour after the game. And I was just really, really, really happy for him that he can kind of, he had a lot of signature moments, but like his college career is going to be remembered by that, which is pretty special. He
gave a lot of people, credence to being a Gonzaga fan after my UCLA experience, you know what I mean, for our fan base. So he washed that away from everybody. And then he gave people like a special moment because the sad thing about this year and obviously the COVID stuff is nobody got to watch you guys live. It really sucks because you experienced the kennel. Yeah. And some of these kids, like Jalen hasn't, Andrew hasn't, obviously Drew maybe a little bit, but he was coming off the bench. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for him to have that opportunity and live up to the hype or whatever and give us that special moment, it's all-time Mount Rushmore Gonzaga moment.
Totally.
It's Casey Calvary, and I'm going way back, was, the tip-in against Florida that kind of started everything. That was kind of the one, and then you can go Jordan Matthews 3, Demetri Goodson's against Western Kentucky, my bank shot, but that was a regular season game against Oklahoma State. But that one, obviously, the moment, but just the way the shot went in. And then, like, I'm going to get this framed and signed, is when he jumped up on the table, that famous picture, and it's all you guys like a Renaissance painting.
Yeah.
He's just like
no,
this.
It's like the Last Supper painting, man.
It's unbelievable. I'm going to get it blown up. It's going to be in my basement. All you fuckers are going to sign it for me. I don't care where you're playing at. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to figure out a way to get it. And, but for, like I said, for our fan base, it was fantastic, and it just washed away. And now they have the Gonzaga moment for them to fucking shit on and whatever. But, I've wanted to talk to somebody in that moment, obviously, because it was pretty special. It was cool to call, so I got to talk about the Baylor game a little bit, and it's going to be one of those that sting. And I know that, I understand that. You guys think a little bit, you guys are a shot fighter a little bit going into that as far as energy and emotion?
I mean, it's tough to say. I really think that, like, I was in a mindset that, like, it didn't matter what happened to me. It didn't matter how much sleep I got the night before.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Well, adrenaline.
Yeah, for sure.
I understand that.
And it definitely didn't help that, like, I think Baylor would have beat the Lakers in the first half of that game. Like, they were just really that good.
Dude, in the first media timeout, I think they were 6 for 10, and you guys were 0 for 3. I mean, they started off as good as you can start, and then they had the offensive rebounds. So for me, as an outside perspective, because, again, being a former player in your team, you don't always want to say, like, hey, this such and such took away from our performance. Outside observer, player's mind as well, it just looked like your guys' legs were gone a little bit.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that for 2 nights or a day and a half that they're just pumping that shot up, obviously, on TV. So they're just sitting there pissed off even more. But, yeah, no, it was just it was one of those games that, obviously you're going to, I'm just giving you some advice. It's going to sting for a while, and you know that. You don't need me to explain that to you, but I just think it looked like you guys were a little bit shot emotionally and physically, but also you sit there and go, well, shit, I lift all year long. I'm a man. I'm ready to fucking compete. I just think maybe that was part of it, but I was obviously not on the floor, not in the locker room. So yeah, I mean, that's all I need to talk about the Baylor game too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get you on. I didn't get you on here to be, hey, relive a memory of basketball, because I've lost some big ones. Obviously, UCLA game. I missed a fucking pull up against Texas Tech when we had the lead. Ended Ronnie Turioff's career in the NCAA tournament. I lost the state championship going undefeated. So I understand the burn. You know what I'm saying? Those aren't on that stage, but I've been in some locker rooms and it ain't fun afterwards. It's not fun.
No.
And, there's a lot of tears, a lot of emotion, and so I appreciate you sharing what you did. So let's segue into something a little more positive. All right.
Let's do it.
Pre-Gonzaga. I'm with Scott Keeney, a.k.a. DJ Skee, Mixtape God, Minnesota Vikings in-house game DJ, founder of Dash Radio, Skee Sports. What else you got? I know you got
Timberwolves fan.
Timberwolves fan.
The lone one.
Music. So 2005, you produced the 300 bars and running for the game, right?
It's so long ago. I can't believe it's 2005.
So
damn.
That was, like 14-minute long beef song, right?
Yeah.
With 50 Cent. Like, because I remember the Stop Snitch and Stop Lying. That was college for me.
Yeah. Wow.
So, like, I've always wanted to know, like, you produced the mixtape, and this was like a legitimate beef, right? It wasn't just it was personal.
No, people died in that, like, legitimately.
Okay, so did you ever feel like you were picking a side just because you produced the mixtape? Like, I've always wanted to know the people on the
100%.
periphery. Obviously, you had a big role in it, but did you ever feel, like, frightened or just odd to be mixed into that stuff because it gets personal and then it gets
100%, man. I mean, and it was different because I'd known Game and 50 for a while from all of that. Like I'd watched 50's growth. We were doing stuff. We did a lot with him, and like if you see, like you'll see the sidekick in the 21 Questions video. That was the first video. It starts off with the color sidekick, so that was me on set doing those things. I'd known Game longer than I even knew 50. I knew Game before he was even signed to G Unit when he was just had the Dre deal, and I met him when I still worked for Steve way back in the day. So I'd known Game actually longer than 50, even though 50 came up earlier than that. And we'd always clicked and just became friends and associates. And I was always hooking Game up early on because I believed in his talent. As soon as I heard it, I was like, wow, this kid's like one of the most incredible
lyricist.
rappers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever. So, but we've done a lot of work with 50. And I was playing, I was cool with both sides when the beef first started, right? And I was still at this point, I had left Steve, but I had my own marketing agency and I had a studio. And at that point I was doing a little more DJing. I was doing like a little show on Sirius. I was doing like a couple like small events, but I hadn't made it, right? Like we did a T-Mobile Sidekick mixtape. So I'd put like Game on it and did these things. So I was starting to like get my name out there, but it wasn't known. I hadn't made it as a DJ. It was my side project. I still had a full-time job in essence. And I remember when the whole beef happened, meeting Game afterwards and talking through it, like right after there was a shooting in New York at a radio station and one of Game's guys got shot, and I thought he'd show up with like 100 people, and I think I was giving him a sidekick or something. He met with me solo after and saw all those things. But the turning point for me was when my studio was on Melrose at the time, and the office and studio, I had like a one studio room in there. And I met Game. He was at I think it was the Ed Hardy store, which was like, it was at the time, 2005, one of the cooler brands.
Yeah,
right?
no, I had an Ed Hardy shirt. Probably still do.
I actually
somewhere.
didn't. I actually never really liked it. I don't think you could ever. I think you like. And I admit if I did. I don't think I ever did. But he was there. He's picking up some clothes, and this was during the whole beef. And I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And they'd made peace. There was a peace treaty at this time. Like literally, like Al Sharpton had stepped in. They were like, "Yo, no breaking up the Beatles." Jimmy Iovine said. So they were cool. But 50 was throwing all these shots at Game. So Game felt like he had to come back at him. And he's like, "I'm gonna come back at him and diss him." And I was like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah." So
man.
he played me. He gave me a disc that was the first like 3 or 4 minutes of 300 bars, but it was all over one beat. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go 300 bars," because he had this series. He'd done 100 bars, 200 bars. So he's like, "I'm gonna do 300 bars," which I'm like, it's only fucking 15 minutes long. Like that's a lot of rapping. And it was over one beat. And it's the KRS One, the Love's Gonna Get You, the BDP beat, which is great, incredible track. But it's like, you can't listen to that shit for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Dude, like, it was too much. So I had the idea. I was just like, hey, I want to help you out as a friend. Like, I went in my studio and like did a Jackin' for Beats thing and produced some stuff together. And I emailed it to him. I was like, yo, check your email. I remember I sent him a two-way or a text on his sidekick, and I just was like, hey, this is just some advice. Like, I think this will be cool and do that. I didn't expect to do that. Then he called me next thing, like after I sent it, like 5 minutes later, he's like, yo, I'm on the way. I'm like,
here we go.
It's like, we're going to record this. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to record this song. So anyways, get it together. He comes in the studio, and then I'm just like, we're like riffing, and it's like in real time. He's like, he lays some bars, and then I mix a beat in. And one of my favorite things about that song is that when he mentions something, especially Game, like his rap style, he name drops a lot, right?
Yeah.
So every time he says an artist name or says allude to something, like I'll mix in the background of that. So there's so many like samples in that layer, and that's why you can't hear it on Spotify. There's no clearance of it. So
yeah, I've always wanted to know, like with the mixtapes, like there's so much sampling. Like how do you can't just put none of that, and that's why and that's what's so sad. Like a lot of that era just doesn't exist because it's pretty much
it's still underground. It was underground then, but now it's even more so. But we sat in the studio for 2 days straight and ended up making this record. And at the end of it, I was like, oh, wow, damn, like I just produced this. This is fun. Like, and at the time I'm like, all right, I didn't have any expectations, but Game was like, no, I'm putting you on the mixtape. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't really expect that. But I'd been there working, and then we recorded a couple other records that there was a whole, You Know What It Is, Volume 3 and mixtape with a bunch of other records. And he threw my name on it. And I was like, I realized it then too. It was one of those other moments like, oh shit, like my life is, if I do this, like my life is going to change.
Absolutely.
So like I realized like, and for being a DJ, there's very few opportunities that you have to get on. And this is before DJs like were getting paid crazy in Vegas.
Yeah. Before like the Calvin Harris and all that stuff.
Like, that didn't exist. So
Tiesto, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Like mixtapes were the only way, and it was really being associated with an artist. And so it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I'd really worked on that. And like, I'd known Game for a long time. I loved loved that record. I personally didn't have any beef with 50. I understood games points from that. But at the same time, too, like 50 had Who Kid, and Who Kid's my guy. I'd known Who Kid forever. And like I never personally said anything or did any of that. But of course, like I was associated and took that side. And I had to make that risk. Like, look, do I want to just stay back and tell them to take my name off of it and be scared and not do that? And or do I
get
just
the credit that you deserve?
Yeah. Or I'm like, do I embrace it and leverage this? And like, it is what it is at a certain point. And like, you really like, the heat, like 50's not going to be happy and all those things. And, I said like, look, I'm going to do myself. I treat myself as a producer for that the same way that other ones do. If people take it the wrong way, kind of it is what it is, but I'm not scared. And I'm not out here claiming to be a gangbanger and like calling out for you. I'm not going to go shoot and do any of those things. If somebody comes after me, like, you're going to look weak if you're going after like the white boy in the crew, right? Like that's not a gangbanger. That's
skinny white boy
clearly
in the backside.
not that, right? But at the same time too, I'm going to ride with people that are loyal for me and stay true to myself. And that's how I've always been able to walk between worlds. So, that night was crazy. And I remember Game had to fly to New York. He was going to do some show. The world hadn't heard it. This is like, you couldn't just, MySpace was around and coming up, but it wasn't like instant. And I remember making a clean version, going to Power 106 in the morning, Big Boy show and premiering it. 15-minute long diss record playing on radio against the biggest artist in the time. Like, I mean, I so wish that like Twitter and all these social networks were around
it'd be
then.
Insane. Are you kidding me? Like,
and especially how clever Game was with like the skits and all the things that he had. So we wrote out and took sides, and there were definitely people in their feelings, and definitely, it didn't make me friends with everybody. But in retrospect, like I stayed true to myself. I worked with music that, I produced stuff that I thought was dope, but I never was out there like claiming to gangbang and have those beefs. I'm just, the producer and the guy in there. I'm not like, going to step down and back down and hide from that stuff. But at the end of the day, like it's music, and it was an opportunity for me to get out there as a DJ and make a career out of something that I love. And I realized early on too that I didn't want to be just known as that mixtape person or as games DJ or something. And no disrespect to anybody that's just a DJ for one artist or any artist, but I had such a diverse musical taste. I was like, I had a whole plan at that point. I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this as my
you're multi-talented, so you wanted
in the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if this is the chance that I get to showcase, that I can showcase everything else on, like that opportunity might not ever come into my lifetime. And if I don't do this right now and don't accept it, and it was tough too. It was probably it would have been easier to walk away and be quiet, like, oh, don't put my name on it, but then I would have been like still on the industry side, and I wouldn't have been able to build all the things that I've done. And you have to take a risk. And looking back and at all the crazy times, I mean, at the time I'm like 20 years old. And
that beef was real, man. It was crazy.
Like, would I go through that now? Hell no. It's just not worth it. Like looking back, I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? Why was it stupid? Like walking in the studio at our office, there's guns laid out everywhere. Like,
oh God.
There was serious, like there was literally like, I mean, you guys can look it up. It's all public record and see like there's people that died as a part of that beef. And being in the mix, there were moments like I would drive and luckily there's some real street guys in there that taught me and that looked out for me and that helped me out and showed me like how to move. Like I remember driving driving the longer ways, driving in the middle lanes. So if somebody was to come to you from the right, you'd always have to have enough room in front of a car so somebody couldn't sneak up with you. So
wild, man.
Yeah. So I was not ignorant to the risks out there. I wouldn't do it again, but at the time, like, look, you're young and you're dumb and you do those things.
It's crazy. I appreciate
but it worked out.
Appreciate you sharing that, man. That's wild. Like for real to even think about, because that was my era, college. Yeah. So I remember like Stop Snitch, Stop Lying, and like these guys like hated each other.
Bro, we went out there like that stuff was real.
Hated each other.
Man, and we had like when we'd go to New York, we'd land and the police would follow us. There was a hip hop cops unit, and they'd literally like follow us because they didn't want anything to happen on that watch. So they'd try to shadow you to prevent anything from happening. But so many crazy stories and so many things, and it worked out. Like, I think that beef is kind of like all things. The time is
time heals all. Yeah.
Yeah, there's issues on both sides. I don't know if they'll ever be best friends.
You don't have to be though.
Yeah, they've gotten through with me. Me and Who Kid have worked on a ton of projects since then. That's my guy. Like, I don't have any beef or any problem with anybody. I happen to be in it, and it's like, look, you've got to, you're on a side, but that wasn't my beef. I was just helping amplify and tell that story.
Okay, go for. All right, here we are, Joël Ayayi.
Sure.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having
Appreciate it. You were 17, right? You
just turned 17, yeah.
Just turned fucking 17. Yeah. So I remember when you first got there, I think it was the first year I started doing radio, and shit, you were probably like 155 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you were a junior in high school, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what people don't realize. Like you could have been playing at Ferris.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? High school at the GSL, and you're enrolled in practices. And, I just remember seeing this, like, man, this kid just looks small, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just being completely real.
Sure.
It's like, fuck, I don't know if he can put on the weight, but also I always was like, well, he's 17, but I also knew in the back of my head, and Fewey's going to hammer me for this, because I'm going to have him on in one of my shows, is I knew he was going to ride your fucking ass.
Yeah.
I knew it. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, he has one of those guys every year that he picks out, and he gets on him. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen it. It was me a little bit my freshman year, not as bad. But yeah, so you arrive at 17.
Yeah.
Are you so you kind of, was it Gonzaga pretty much from the start? I mean, you talked about Georgia Tech, Baylor, but you were like Tommy in the reputation with the foreigners and all that stuff. Is that kind of just like,
and like Killian was there.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that was
Killian.
huge.
Yeah, Killian.
And
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
me, it was like stability and the community.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm 17. I don't need a coach that could get fired a year later because
That's
they have bad
true.
results.
It's a good point.
I know we'll have winning records. Coach who's been here forever. Tommy's been here forever. European background. Killian is here. I was like, and really good at developing people, and European especially. I was like, let's just go there.
Well, we had Roney was Frenchman. I played with Mamo Diallo, I think was his last name, was French.
Yeah.
I think one of the colonies or whatever the fuck you guys call them now.
Yeah.
And then Pierre-Marie Altidore Cespedes played here. He was French, Canadian.
So, it was like a bunch of like...
Yeah, so like the university, so that's interesting. So you get here, what was like your first, like, you're in a practice or whatever, were you like, I'm punching above my weight class a little bit here at first, or were you like, it's going to take me some time to get, because you redshirted, right? Yeah, they redshirted you, which was the right decision.
100%. So like when I got here, I was like, okay, like let's.
I never heard you fucking say a word for a whole year.
Yeah.
Like for real.
Yeah, like I was, and I'm not an introvert at all, but it's like I don't want to I want to look stupid speaking English with some funky words, or like I'm like, for me to like actually have a whole conversation, it will take a lot, and like I need to search my words a little bit, and like if you use a word that I never, that I never heard, so like about it, like I used to walk around and say like to great people, I would just say hello, because we learned that you say hello is like the right, and hi and what's up is really like to your buddies. So every time I would walk around and see somebody who's older than me or something, I would say hello, and then you're like, hey, what's up, and I'm like, oh, like. He just say what's up.
So,
like,
so then he thinks he's my buddy, or like.
And then I had to ask Corey. I'm like, okay, like, what do you answer to what's up? Or like, is it okay for me to say, hey, how are you doing to like an adult? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So then I will walk around with my mindset. Okay, no matter what people say, I'm just gonna say like, doing good, and you, because you can answer that to kind of everything. And then one day, like somebody said, hey, what's up? And I was like, I don't know if I can say doing good and you. And I was like, I just got stuck for a second, and that person kind of smiled, and I was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, yes, like you kind of understood that I was kind of stuck. So that's one of the reasons I was really quiet my first year. But yeah, like coming here, I was like, wow, like those guys are ballers. Like we have ballers in Europe, but this is like hoopers. Like like everybody here is a hooper, like you're not fast, you're not like a shooter, you're not athletic, you are like 150. You are under, the only thing that can save you right now is your IQ and your energy.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Like, if you want to just like have like a little bit of like, you have to be like the smartest guy on the court and just give it all and talk, like trying to like bring energy.
Yeah.
And right away I was like, okay, like those guys are obviously way better. They're like older, they're experienced. I'm learning. And I was like, at first I told Tommy, I was like, I don't need a redshirt. Like, even if you put me for like a second at the end of the game, I'll be fine, And I didn't have exactly the idea of like, okay, what's a red shirt? It was scary. You don't play for a whole year. I'm the best player in Europe, and you're gonna tell
Dude, they
me.
told me I was gonna fucking gray shirt.
You see?
So like that's a year and another year. So I get it. It's scary. Yeah, exactly.
see?
Because you're like, what the fuck? You
Yeah.
know, like I don't want to sit out.
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking
I
about?
was like, slowly, I'll be able to crack the rotation. That's how it works in Europe. You know, you just crack your rotation slowly. Like,
yeah,
I'm the one that,
you bet on yourself.
you know, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, coach, you only play 7 to 8 guys, and from the jump, I learned that preseason was so important because once you're on the nines on the verge, to crack the rotation and being the 7, 8 guy is almost at 4 years. I didn't see that happening for nobody.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, like those guys are way better. I have to explain to my parents, okay, I won't play all this year, but don't worry, it's part of the plan. You know, I'll be doing great. Tommy's really taking good care of me. Everybody's taking good care of me. You don't have to worry at all. Like, because I'm like, they send their 17-year-old, you know.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's
like, I'm like,
that's
as parents, like, so, like, my parents, like, until recently had no idea about my struggle. Like, they knew I wasn't playing but they had no idea that I was coming home. Like, dang, like today would suck.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
They had no. I can't tell them that. Like,
yeah,
they have
'cause
enough pressure.
Yeah, because they're
already.
sitting there going, you know, I sent my baby across the pond here,
Exactly.
and what the fuck? Why
Yeah.
did we let him? And blah blah blah.
They
Then
don't-
yeah,
I'm like, you would be so worried. I can't afford that. So, you know, and but yeah, I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't, you know, I wasn't up there yet at that level. But it just gave me so much more like will to work and stuff. I was like, and then at the same time, I was like, that's the reason I got here. You know, a bunch of kids just hide on friends because they're gonna get drafted on potential. That's how it goes now. You know, oh, he's 6'5", lengthy, and I think I could have got drafted maybe a year or two ago just because I'm like I would have played 10 minutes pro, 6'5", lengthy, huge potential, point guard, you know. But I'm like right now I would be like shaking my boots in the NBA because I'm like, okay, like
you don't have the
I don't
experience.
know if anybody wants me because I just hit a wall when I got to the US. So I was like, that wall, that's exactly the reason I go to college is to play those guys who are the best athlete, you know. And I was just gonna like hit the wall, and at some point, you know, I knew I was kind of gonna like get over that wall, and I'm just happy it happened.
So, talking about breaking into the rotation. So, I think for me, covering you guys was going into your sophomore year because I think your freshman year, we would put you at the end of games and you'd make plays. You know, I'd sit there with Tom Hudson, who does the games with me, and be like, oh, that was actually the right read. Yeah. Okay, then you start scoring. It was like, okay. You know what I mean? And I saw some growth. So then, okay, we're going to get into a little bit juicier. Brock Vervey comes in. Yeah. Your sophomore year. What were you thinking before the season? Because everybody fucking was talking about he was going to be Jason Williams. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, I never said it on the air, but I knew that you probably kicked the shit out of him that fall. Yeah. You did, didn't you?
I was just like...
And he's probably a nice kid. We're not burying a kid.
100%.
But I'm saying you were like, this is either now or never if I'm going to fucking play here.
Exactly.
I gotta kick the shit out of this guy.
Like, this is my last chance.
Yeah.
Like, I've been here for 2 years already. Like, I was damn near like gently pushed away, you know? And I kind of like say like...
You can be real with...
You know? I was like, okay, I know that I'm maybe not the wanted here, but I just said, no, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay there and make some room for myself. And I just went into that preseason and I was just like, I don't care who you are, you know, like I will just go so hard. I'll make myself needed. I was just in that mindset. Dude. I was like,
fucking great.
I know I might not even be wanted here, but I'm just going to go so hard. I worked so hard. Like,
I knew it from afar. But I knew it was like Joël probably kicked the shit out of that kid every fucking day.
You know, and
every day.
I came back from the World Championship where I played great, and I was like, I had a bunch of calls from like European teams. You know,
they were like, you're not playing. Yeah, come make some money. Yeah,
they're like, I don't know what they don't see in you, but they didn't play you, and you just came here and you were like. You should come here, you know, obviously you're going to get paid. And like, you know, Euro Cup, like some great clubs, you know.
Hey, Euro Cup's
like,
good too.
Yeah, like
I played in Euro Cup, yeah.
And I was like 19, 20, I was like, wow, like, for 2 days, I was like, dang it. But then I was just like, man, you just worked way too hard.
Too hard to just be like, see you guys.
You know, like, you came here because it was hard and you have a small window, but it's here. You didn't have the window at all. It's here. After 2 years and a half, this is to me became a challenge. I was like, nah, there is no way you don't leave college without being one of the best players in the country. There is no way you allow yourself.
That mindset is unbelievable.
And
by
I
the
was
way,
just like
fucking great.
I was like, let's go. You know, obviously like nothing mean on the route, like
No, that's and I think the listeners are going to understand that we're not shitting on him.
Yeah,
but we're saying that when somebody gets recruited over here, because it happens all the time, especially now at Gonzaga, it happened to me. They're just bringing as many guys as they can. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
You have to go and it's like, he's my teammate, but I'm going to bust his ass every single fucking day and make myself a part of this rotation to where coach has no choice. And I think the Bahamas tournament is where you kind of,
that was like,
you played fantastic, but you were just letting it rip. You were making all the right reads. Yeah. You didn't have to look over your shoulder. There was a bunch of,
Adman was kind of hurt.
Yes.
He only played he just started basically for the first 4 and in both quarters, both halves.
Yeah.
And then I was playing like the whole half.
Yep.
And you know, like preseason, I was just like, okay, I know there's going to be 7 or 8 guys. I don't care who are the 6 or 7 other guys, but I have to be
one of them.
I don't care if it's 7 guards, 1 center or whatever. I have to be one of them. Like, I will make myself like that guy that he will be in there,
Yeah.
And that's why I started the season, I was 7th man, and I was like, it's all good because like technically I had such a good like preseason. I kind of knew that I had the ability to like be a starter, become a starter. And I was like, look, right now the only thing you're worried about is like, how can I get more minutes or go from 20 to 30?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be from how do I get 0 to 1, So I'm like, you're in a great situation. There's nothing to complain about. And all you have to do is keep working and play good during the games. Like, because it's way worse.
You murdered in that tournament, and you were balling too. You were doing your shake, and your pull-up game was going too. You were hitting floaters, and then Fewy was finally running fucking ball screens for you, and you're great on the weak side guy. You can hit the corner, you can hit the big. You're the only guy that could pivot and hit the dump down pass on that team.
Yep.
I think Woolridge could do it that year as well, but you guys could come off. Our bigs always sit.
And then,
yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was like, if you do that for Fewy, then he's like, oh, fuck yeah, you can do it. You know what I mean?
Like, you do it a couple times, and he's like, whoa. And I think, like you said, like, for example, it's so stupid, but that particular move was like, okay, he's not just taking the ball screen, sprinting to the rim, trying to throw something up. He's actually reading the game, sitting down, and hitting one of the best big in the country.
Yep.
He understood how it worked. He got Corey filling. He's understood that he can sit down, pass it back to Corey. You got Killian down there. He understands that that's a shooter with a high pocket. So you pass it to him. And I was like,
pop,
exactly. And I'm like, to me, that year is when I become, I became a player. Like I had a little more freedom and I felt it every game. And like Bahamas was when, because right after Bahamas, I became a starter. And
it was well earned too. I mean, just watching that tournament, it was just like, man, Joel's playing fucking fantastic. But you could just tell that the confidence was there.
Yeah.
Obviously speaking to you now, but I could see it as a broadcaster and as a former player. I'm like, okay, lift it off of his shoulders, right?
Yeah,
the monkey
100%.
was off his back. It was like, oh my
100%.
God, now I can finally play with freedom.
Yeah.
Because you were snapping it off. That thing was looking good. That was, I mean, I knew going into that season once Brock left, I had the inclination. I'd never say it on the radios. I didn't want to, but I was like, I guarantee Joel beat the shit out of him. And I always wanted to know. And I knew, but I wanted to get confirmation. It was like, but that's a great mindset because let's just be real here. Okay. So for the people listening right now, like when somebody that highly regarded gets recruited and you haven't played in fucking 2 years, they're basically telling you,
you
go transfer.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what they're telling you without saying it. Yeah. And they love. Dan Katz of Barstool Sports. Thanks for coming on, man.
Dude, I'm very, very excited. This is a full circle moment, to say the least, for you to have a podcast and me to be able to be on your podcast after the history of our relationship.
Yeah, no, it is kind of a circle of life thing right now, so I'm excited about it. Again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for having us all the way out in New York. You guys got a beautiful studio. It looks
you don't
like,
have to say that.
Looks like shit, but it's a dump. But
it's a total dump.
Got some cool memorabilia on the wall. I had a jersey for you, actually, and I'll mail it to you as long as it doesn't go in the pile.
Yes, I will.
But
I'll frame it. I'll frame that.
I have a jersey where it's half it's me on the front with like when I was playing with a stash and everything, and then bobcats on the back. So I just figured I had it laid out too, and I like washed it and everything.
All right,
I'll get it
that's
to
the
you.
worst gift ever because you just were like, hey, this thing was so sweet, and I was gonna bring it, and
Good
I
point.
didn't. But I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I will absolutely put that up.
We'll find a space
Yeah,
for
we'll
it as
find a
long as
spot
it doesn't
between
go.
Coach O and the Cubs.
As long as it doesn't go in the pile, is that all right?
I can't promise that, but guess what? Here's what I'll say: is the pile. For people who don't know, it's basically just the corner of my office. People send me stuff constantly, and I'm a hoarder by nature to begin with, but I've weaponized the pile for the greater good, so I auction it off every year or so for charity.
Yeah, no, you
so
do
now
well
people
with it.
can't complain for me being messy. It's probably the most genius thing I've done.
Yeah, like I said, as long as it doesn't get, well, if it goes to charity, then I'll live with it. But,
Okay, perfect.
All right, so let's get into like how we first met.
Yes.
So what was it? February? You guys started the show, 2016? February?
So, yeah, we started the show February 29th, 2016 was the first episode of Pardon My Take.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm sitting there minding my own business, kind of faded off into the sunset, and I opened all my social media, and it's Adam Morrison has a bunker. Adam Morrison's unhinged, owns all these guns, and Barstool Sports, Kyle Wiltshire. So I'm like, kind of like, what the fuck, kind of pissed off, obviously. So I start texting everybody. I get a hold of Wiltshire, and he gives me your number. So I remember texting you and being like, hey, can I talk to you on the phone? And it was a contentious first phone call. Do you remember me telling you I was going to sue you guys if you didn't let me come on?
I forgot that part.
Remember that?
Yeah. Shit.
It was like
because we've been so friendly since that moment.
Yeah.
But I forgot that. Yeah, you're right. So from our perspective, we start this podcast. I think it was probably the second or third week of the podcast. Maybe I don't know, the 14th episode. I'm just throwing that out there. But it was sometime during March Madness, right before March Madness started. Hank, our producer, knew someone on Kentucky who knew Kyle Wiltshire when he was on Kentucky. We were looking for guests. We're just starting out. He's like, hey, we have Kyle Wiltshire. He's playing, obviously, in Gonzaga. They, are playing. They're good this year. They're playing in March Madness. And so we're like, great. And we started talking to him, and we started talking about you, and he did say, he was like, yeah, he's got a bunker and all this stuff. And then we woke up the next morning, and it was like, fuck, this is now becoming a story. And it was, admittedly for us, our first big break. So I owe you that, because it was our first time that people were like, pardon my take. And if you go through the list, like I always talk about, there's a list of things that happened to get Pardon My Take to number one, and this was absolutely the number one first thing to happen.
Yeah.
And I forgot that we did have a contentious exchange. I felt bad though.
You were nice about it.
Yeah, no, I felt bad because I was like, my philosophy when it comes to doing podcasts, having guests on, doing content, is I never want anyone to walk away feeling bad about themselves. Yeah. I always want people to feel like they had a good, busting balls, having fun, making jokes, like making fun of each other. That's all cool. But I don't want anyone ever to walk away and be like, man, that sucked.
Like I don't.
That was an asshole experience. So I definitely felt bad, but I also think you were like, you got to take it down. We're like, we can't. And then we had you on, and it was like start of a friendship.
Yeah, it was. So, like I said, I was minding my own business, and I remember that evening I think my daughter was probably 7 or 8 at the time, so I go to her practice, and fucking people are looking at me like I'm David Koresh, Ted Kaczynski, and, so I'm hot. But you were like, all right, I'll let you come on, the next day or 2 days or whatever it was. And it's funny, I still have people, like just random people like, hey, man, I remember your PMT episode. I loved it. And it was kind of cool in a sense because you guys gave me an opportunity to, like, explain myself. Like, sometimes when you get a gotcha moment, some people will just be like, I got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
obviously, and then
right.
take all the whatever came about it and not give somebody a chance to explain themselves. And then you guys were cool about it. Like, you didn't, like, you let me explain it, but you didn't, like, hammer me into a corner and be like, no, you really got one, don't you? Because I had to do, like, I had like 3 interviews come in, like what's the Sports Illustrated did one, and then another I think Bleacher Report did one, and so I had to like explain that I'm not like a psycho, right wing nutcase, right? So yeah, it was just interesting first way to kind of meet somebody.
Yeah, very interesting, and it was also like having you on was great because I'm 36 years old. I remember your like rise. I remember you in college. Like whenever I think about like I'm a big. Looking back now, as you get a little older, it's like we were having this conversation about Tim Tebow. Like I don't like Tim Tebow. I think he's a little bit like of a attention seeker. All these things. He's not going to make the team. But I also can recognize like I have fond memories of watching Tim Tebow in college, and he was one of the greatest college football players of all time. Like I have fond memories of watching you play in college, and like moments that are maybe not your best moments, but moments that are etched in my mind where I'm like, this dude was awesome. And he was cool for the sport, and it was fucking like you don't lose those moments. So when you were hit me up, I was a little starstruck, and yeah, I mean it was crazy that it all worked out. Now, do you still have the bunker? It's just off site. What is?
No. It's obviously it's I think I've explained it on your guys' show on PMT, but it's just Washington law requires you to have safes, but if you have an open room with firearms, you have to have a door with a lock on it. So it's a storage room.
Good law.
Great law.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I pride myself, I guess, on being a responsible gun owner, and I really do. And so it's just a room with other safes in it.
Could you imagine though? Like that doesn't really play if it was like Adam Morrison, responsible gun owner.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it was so crazy though. Like New York Post had a thing like Unhinged and all this shit, and so like I literally had to do a media tour, and then you have to get into the. Like, how come you don't play anymore? How come your NBA career was shitty?
See, I feel bad.
You know what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah,
so then I'm like, I'm just minding my own business. I'm a dad, blah, blah, blah. My lifestyle's good, and I'm just like staying out of the limelight, and then I get thrown back into it. But like I said, it was an interesting way to meet somebody, and I'm glad my like embarrassment helped you guys have some success.
Yeah, no, it did.
I mean?
I owe you for sure. And I mean, we've had you on since.
Oh yeah,
it's
been great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's great that a friendship was born out of it. Like that's like the perfect story ending to me is like these type of moments happen and then you like get a new friend out of it. You're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and like I said, you guys handled it right, and I really mean that, not to get like sappy or anything, but you guys like gave me an opportunity to speak my mind, explain myself, and then you guys weren't like, giving me shit the whole time.
Now, the other like underrated part of the story that I don't ever think gets talked about is Gonzaga went out and just laid an egg. And I think like we might have had something to do with that, like Kyle Wiltshire feeling like, oh fuck, I fucked up. Because the game was in Chicago. Who'd they lose to? It was first round game.
Oh yeah, no, was that the Syracuse year?
It might have been.
I think it might have been the Syracuse year where they were up. Yeah, but you're right. They did.
They laid a total egg, and I was sitting there the whole time being like,
well, and I felt bad too because like you said, it was like unnecessary publicity for those guys.
Right.
And
right.
He didn't mean it out of haste.
It was a total offhand comment
that
got just picked up.
And I was, I was pissed at the time. I mean, I literally went to a lawyer's office.
Really?
Yeah, man. I mean, because I'm sitting there like, I have to explain myself, and I don't know like what defamation what it comes down to, but
no one does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what my lawyer said. They're like, well, hey man, like you can try, but
also our defense would have just been my bad.
Exactly. And then you can always say like you're technically in the public light, so people can say whatever the fuck they want about you. But yeah, anyway, I always start the shows with kind of how I know people and the connection.
It's
and
a great one. It's definitely probably the weirdest one.
It's
probably a little different than Mark Few.
Very true, but yeah, so that's how we came to know each other. It was like I said, my embarrassment helped you guys become a little bit. Obviously you guys.
No, it was no. I give you. Listen, I don't underrate that. Like like I said, there's a few moments, and that's definitely one of them.
No, I appreciate it. So, the next thing I want to talk about is like, how did you start? Because you're like an OG podcaster, and everybody knows that. Like when you first. I got the 2017 AP Coach of the Year, 2-time National Association of Basketball Coaches Coach of the Year, 2-time Naismith Coach of the Year, 14-time WCC Coach of the Year, future Hall of Famer Mark Few. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Are you a fan of the portal, or are you kind of like both sides? I mean, because you see the value for Gonzaga with the grad transfers has been great over the years. So, like, all in all, I mean, I know you got to kind of toe the line a little bit with the NCAA, like you mentioned.
I don't have to toe. No, I don't have to toe it at all.
So, do you like the portal?
Well, I think that I mean, do you like food? I mean, that's just such a basic, like.
Do you like the transfer portal? Do you think it's good for college basketball?
Well, there's this portal or whatever is just not, we've been moving along on this continuum for a time.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're asking me where the rule currently stands with all this misinformation and disconnection of facts to where we're going to be, no, it's a disaster right now. I am for players having opportunities. I think if the NCAA would have been more astute and more timely on seeing this coming down the pipes, just like NIL, we could have avoided all of this by just, if a coach gets fired or a coach leaves, you get a free. You can
go. I agree with that.
You can go.
Yes.
But just open it up under the guise of like, well, all the other sports can do that. You and I both know the other sports are not like men's college basketball and football.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a roster building aspect of this with incredible, highly competitive recruiting things going on that are vastly different than these other
swimming
sports.
and
So this idea and so I think we could have avoided all of that by just getting behind this, 4 or 5 years ago. Because sure, I mean, if you went to a place and the coach left, took another job or he got fired, I mean, it's definitely within reason. You should be able to do that.
I think so too.
And then what happened, Mo, is everybody, they started allowing waivers, and then you could just get a waiver for anything. And you started bringing people in, and my aunt's cousin's nephew's brother is really sick, and I need to
go home.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to go home, why don't you sit out the year and spend some time with that aunt's cousin's nephew's brother? Not play college basketball and never go home.
Yeah.
So there was that and whatever, and I you're involved in AAU basketball now.
I am
with your daughters, and so there is a generational aspect of this, where you pretty much can just, if you hit the slightest bit of adversity, you're out of there.
Yeah, and
I personally don't think that's a healthy way to mature, and there are some things you got to learn, life lessons, as you journey through this life, especially at your younger age.
I totally agree. I think speaking of the AAU stuff, I mean, with my daughter's team, just forming it was chaos. You know what I'm saying? And teams leaving, and obviously it's not tied to a university, but to be able to have to deal with that, and then trying to enroll players, and then you mentioned the recruiting process, especially with you guys now, because you guys recruit different players than my era, and that's not a knock on the players I had, but or we had. But they're higher level guys. Can I stop
that for a second though? Like, I think, first of all, like, I mean, come on, you were the second pick in the draft or whatever, So I bristle at that a little bit, and JP Batista was an unbelievable double machine, and Derek Ravio was. Come on now, all of you guys would play big time roles, starter, all league, all American, currently on this team. So, it's and again, I think I got the best feel out of everybody in this. So I welcome other opinions, but I'm just saying.
If we're gonna go that route, I was on the court with these guys,
right?
Okay, and obviously I watched the last 4 years covering the games.
Sure.
There's better top to bottom players at Gonzaga now than there was our era. That's not even close.
Top to bottom.
Not even close.
Right. But the top, especially when we had a guy like you, and we had and Batista was, you know,
and JP was 19 and 10, and we never threw him the ball, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you didn't.
I didn't.
Yeah, you know, so I just, you know, and people like, well, okay, well, Casey Calvary would be great for us right now. We could have used Casey Calvary the other night against Baylor.
It's true.
You know? So, you know, I agree. Top to bottom, we, you know.
Yeah, but what I'm
talking Dom Harris and Julian Strother, you know, that are.
That's what I'm saying, like ESPN top hundreds and stuff like that. That's what I'm basing it off of. Now, we had great players. But that stuff matters in today's basketball. You know that, right? Or recruiting for you guys. It does a little bit. It matters to the kids that are considering going to Gonzaga a little bit, right? Like, who have you gotten in the past is on my level, right? I'm sure that question has come up in your recruiting, right?
I mean, okay, but first of all, so ESPN 100, okay? Where the hell was Adam Morrison on the ESPN 100?
Exactly.
The dude... Well, because you're putting too much stock in these dudes who are doing
not stock.
ESPN.
It's social. It's how you can view players now. It's so much easier. Back then, I
view
went
you as one of the all-time greatest guys ever at Gonzaga.
I appreciate that.
Actually, one of the all-time greatest college seasons you could argue that any player's ever had. And so there's a fine line, and I still pride ourselves at Gonzaga is. If I see you and I see this dude who they say is a top 50, but I know what works at Gonzaga and I have full confidence in my ability or my staff's ability to say, no, we're going to take Adam over this guy and, you know, let's see where it is a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously have parameters of what it means to be a Zag. I totally agree with that, and you've done a good job of recruiting those type of guys that buy in. You know, I've talked about it on the previous shows how much Jalen bought in this year as a one and done guy. It was fucking incredible.
He's
unbelievable.
Off the charts.
It was
so coachable,
unbelievable.
Do you know, like the last time? We're done, right? I mean, getting off the charter. On the bus, and you know we had to make the freshmen shag the bags or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, he's out there shagging the bags. You know, just come on. I mean, it's over. He's going to be the third pick in the draft or whatever, and he's shagging bags and just he was. If you came to our practices and watched him, you'd think he was a walk-on trying to make the team. You know, with just how
good.
What a great teammate he was, how hard he went. In fact, I told him like.
Stop diving on the floor so much, you know.
I actually told him, you know, in the NCAA tournament, you kind of as a coach, you know, okay, this thing, I got 3 more practices with Jalen. I got 2 more, and I just told him, like, Jalen, just do me this one favor, man. Whatever coach you play for next, or whatever coaches you play for, just practice. Give them the greatest gift ever. Just practice as hard as you practiced here, man. That's the greatest gift you could give. You know, a future coach, man. It's such a joy to have a dude you never worry about effort.
Well, he just seemed like he was such a positive kid as well. And then I thought you guys did a good job this year of letting him be a kid, if that makes sense. And then you pulled the reins back on, you know, sometimes you get a little bit out of control, but he had so much pent-up energy. Yeah. But just watching him, man, I was like, man, this kid is so different. It was so sad that there was not an opportunity for the fans to watch him live. Obviously, we know the COVID stuff, but you know, I was sitting there like, man, this kid is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, he's so good. He's so polished.
Who does he remind you of?
See, that's where I've gotten, it's hard for me to go with the comps because I've heard one Jason Kidd with a better jump shot. It's like, okay, I played against Kidd actually. He actually locked me down one time. I had 22 in New Jersey going into the 4th, and I had 0 in the 4th. He handcuffed me, Anyway, I remember I said to you this year, Bradley Beal, but more I thought about it, just doesn't make sense. He's not as big. Bradley's a high level scorer. And I thought Jalen can't get to there. I mean, you obviously coached him. I can't come up with a comp. What do you think?
I mean, the comps for me are some sort of this combination of Jason Kidd and I watched Jason Kidd in college. And again, Jalen's a phenomenal passer, willing passer. Creative passer. So, and what it reminded me with Jason Kidd was just the north-south. I mean, Jason Kidd would just be coming at you, just full bear over and over and over again, the relentlessness of it. Kind of a Chauncey Billups body, and kind of like Chauncey in the half court. And then I just think he reminds me of Russ, man, with just his the joy that he plays with and the explosiveness and the energy. He just keeps coming and coming and coming, and just some kind of combination of those guys, a lot of the goods and a lot of the bads, but just ferocious competitor, man, and channeled channels his competitive spirit pretty darn good for somebody so young. And he's just going to be fun to watch as he moves forward.
I think
great person, great family.
That's
great,
what I've always heard.
Handled
the family's perfect.
This stuff amazingly well. So coachable for someone that's had all these accolades and everything. Willing to be coached, wanting to be coached. I know that's a new concept for you and a tough concept.
How was your easiest player to ever fucking coach in your life?
Well, actually,
we can save that for later.
It was good. It wasn't that bad for me, but you were not easy on assistant coaches. We had. You were a guy the head coach had. You needed to be coached by the head coach and not the assistants.
Yeah, I was hard on Tommy, Billy.
Yeah.
Leon was my guy,
Leon
so I let Leon slide a little bit. But Billy and Tommy got the brunt of it.
But yeah, just we touched on that earlier. Just kind of the entitlement or whatever we think that's going on with this generation, and the ability to hit adversity and give give up.
Special guest. Venezuelan vixen, Juliana Péna, number 6 in the UFC rankings right now, Bantam, correct?
Number 1 in my opinion.
Oh, there you go. I like that. Confidence. Mount Spokane grad for all the Spokane listeners. Got a huge fight coming up August 7th versus Amanda Nunes, title fight. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Feel good to be back home?
It does. I was just driving down Division, and I'm like, there's nothing like driving down Division.
Yeah, you stop by Zips, get some tartar sauce.
Yeah,
and stuff.
corn dogs and stuff.
Again, thanks for coming on. I usually start the shows with the non-basketball people, like kind of how we met. We met through a mutual friend, 5, 6, 7 years ago or something like that. And we used to have the same masseuse.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'd always see each other every once in a while and hang out and stuff. And I was always repping 509. You're a 509 gal, obviously, and doing well in the UFC. And that's how kind of we got connected. And I really appreciate you coming on. Quick question.
Yeah.
Where do you fight out of when they announce you? Do you go Spokane now?
I think they say fighting out of Spokane, Washington, by way of Chicago.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you make sure of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for you.
I literally, when I'm driving down Division, I'm like, man, I am so proud to be from Spokane. I love Spokane. I love the 509. I'll rep it till I die. 509, baby.
Yeah, we're always rooting for you. So
thank you.
To get started, I always kind of like to go through people's background. So obviously, I mentioned you're 2007 Mount Spokane grad. You made your pro debut in 2009. Did you play sports in high school?
I did, yeah. I played all of them, actually. Whatever season it was, I played. I played soccer, basketball, volleyball. I played softball.
All varsity? Or were you like
No,
letter?
actually, see, that's the thing. For some reason, I felt like the other kids had parents that would put them in club, club this, club that.
Matters.
My parents literally just were like, whatever the season was, and then just go and the bus will bring you back. You know what I mean?
The activity bus, yep.
Yeah, so I feel like I want to say this with as much love as possible. I was always on C Squad. For some reason,
Really?
I was always, and I was the one on the team that was so competitive, that was wanting to win all the time, and then I was grouped together with people that didn't care and didn't want to win, and so I would always have this massive frustration, why am I always getting overlooked? I really care. I'm trying to win. I want to play. I play my heart out. I just think that I didn't have that extra, attentive eye, or a coach that really cared, that actually was this girl's actually trying. She really wants to do something. So yeah, I was always I played all the sports, but I was never on varsity.
You always had a competitive bug then, right?
Absolutely.
So getting into fighting, obviously there's no like girls wrestling or whatever at that time, right?
Right.
So you started, your pro debut was in 2009. Like, how did you get like interested into MMA? Because it's a big leap for, you know, at that time period. And correct me if I'm wrong, speaking out of ignorance, but I think it wasn't as prevalent for women to be interested in that sport or have the opportunities. Can you walk us through how you got interested in it? Was it a competition thing? Was it like, this is kind of fun, I'm going to kick the shit out of somebody? You know what I mean? Like, how'd you get interested in it?
So I'm the baby of 4, and I have a very large family. So any family gathering, even in my own household, I was always getting the tail end of a lot of beatings. I have an older brother who's like obsessed with WWE, and he was knocking us around all the time. So I grew up aggressive, but I didn't really know where to channel that. And I always grew up super tough, but like people would always be like, don't mess with her, she'll kick your ass. You know what I mean? But like, I didn't know if I could do it or not, you know? So I had no idea what MMA was. I had no idea what the UFC was. Back then it was rare. Even still right now it's pretty rare. But back then especially very rare. I was serving lanes at Lilac Lanes at
That's awesome.
I was.
Shout out to the North Side Bowling Alley.
That's right. Lilac Lanes. I was the what is it called? Nighttime. I was a graveyard server in the casino, and I had graduated high school. I didn't have like that thing there. You know, they're like, parents were like, you're going to college, you know what I mean? Or like, you're going to be a doctor. Like, I didn't have that, you know, avenue. So my sister invited me to a women's cardio kickboxing class. I think I was like 18, 19 years old after I graduated high school. And she's like, you want to join this cardio kickboxing class with me? And I'm like, yeah, I need to lose some weight. So I joined the cardio kickboxing class, and my coach was like, you know, wow, who taught you how to box? And I'm like, no, nobody. Yeah. And he's like, well, who taught you how to punch? I'm like, you just did. And he's like, you're a natural, you know? And so I remember at that point, you know, when I was living with my parents, like washing the dishes, and I'd have the little TV on the side while I'd wash the dishes. And if it was like MMA, I didn't know what it was, I'd flip the channel. I remember vividly flipping the channel. Anytime it was on Spike TV, I'd flip the channel. I had no idea what it was.
About Spike TV.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Anyway.
And so when I joined the women's cardio kickboxing class, they encouraged me to stay after for the MMA and the jiu-jitsu. And then I kind of figured out what fighting was, but I couldn't pay the dues for the gym. I was broke. I was paying rent at an apartment. I thought I knew it all. I moved out. I'm like, I'll show you guys, you know? So I moved out. I was paying rent, and I joined this cardio kickboxing class. I couldn't pay the dues. And so he's like, okay, you can mop the mats and clean the gym, vacuum the gym and stuff. So that's what I was doing to pay the dues to train. And then he was like, you don't pay anything. You got to fight. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're not paying. So, you know, you got to fight on my fight card. And I'm like, okay.
Who is him?
My head coach, Rick.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
that's
So
cool.
Rick, yeah. So he was like, you got to fight. And so I ended up fighting on his fight card at I think there's a bowling alley and / like half casino out in off of Sprague. I don't remember what it's called, but
which one was that? AC Deuce or Annie Fanny's? Was it that one?
no, it wasn't Annie Fanny's.
Okay. Players and Spectators.
Players and Spectators.
See,
Thank
I'm a
you.
degen gambler,
Yes,
so I know
you're
all
a
the
degenerate.
places. Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Players and Spectators was the one that I did my first amateur fight on. And I remember swinging for the fences for all 3 rounds, like the girl stole my lunch money. Like, just literally, like any pent-up aggression I've ever had my entire life, I took it out on that poor chick. And that's how I got my start. And Rick, my trainer, was like, if you stick with this, you know, you can make a career out of this.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe him. I was going to college full time. I was serving full time, and I was trying to fight full time.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it was just like, you got to pick. Do you want to
You
be the
gotta make
best?
it- yeah.
You want to be the best server in the world? You want to be the best fighter in the world? What do you want to do? So
Did you fall? So obviously you fell in love with it. Would it have mattered if you lost that first fight, if the love would have been there, or were you just like the competition, beating the shit out of somebody, pent up anger, whatever? Was that kind of like, hey man, this is the niche for me? Like, yes, I love this shit right away.
well, when I started to like learn stuff, I was like, this is what I should have been doing. Like, all, you know,
that's
there's
what I'm saying.
parents that put their kids in like taekwondo or karate or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
I threw my very first punch at 19 years old, not ever knowing anything about the sport or martial arts. I didn't even know what martial arts was.
Yeah.
That was like my very first time. So if I would have lost, I think I probably would have not been
Yeah.
as in love with it. I probably would, you know, my confidence would have went down into the toilet. But once I got that first fight under my belt, I'm like, this is what I should have been doing. This is when they say find your passion and it'll never feel like a day of work again. I'm like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is, and you know, it literally engulfed my entire life. Literally, like I remember going on road trips all the time. Every weekend I was going on a road trip, going to Canada, going to, Oregon, going to Idaho, going all these places in the Pacific Northwest, going to fight cards and watching fights all the time. So it literally, it completely took over my life.
Well, it's a high-level sport, and, obviously I was a professional athlete, and
Right.
you understand that now, but it has to be your main focus.
Right.
You can't half-ass it. No matter how good, talented, natural, like you mentioned you are, you have to be all in completely. So, yeah, that's very interesting that it just automatically, clicked for you, and now you're in a chance for the title fight, which we'll talk down later the road.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how the world works like that. One opportunity, what if you didn't, you don't decide to go to that cardio kickboxing class? And
Right.
like I said, what if you lose
Yeah.
that first fight? And then, it's domino effect is what I'm saying. So
Right.
let's segue into Ultimate Fighter 18.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's documented, and today's guest is Chris Haynes, Yahoo Sports senior writer, TNT sideline reporter.
Us when we grew up, Sunday morning NBA games were the big thing. Those were the big.
Yeah, that's the best.
That was the.
John Tesh, hold on, recorded that at a dinner. Okay, he came up with that theme song. It was John Tesh, 99% sure. At a dinner, he called his own home phone and sang it so he wouldn't forget it.
Wow.
And then
that was it.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, keep going.
Wow.
Yes.
NBC.
Yes, the best. I love when they do it at the warm ups.
Yeah, they do.
Because all the old guys were like, "Fuck yeah!" I was the same way. Grew up. That shit came on. It was Bulls, Phoenix,
Knicks,
Houston, Knicks. And you're just like, man, fuck yeah. But anyway, keep going. Sorry.
So I grew up, and that was like, wow, this is the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was just big. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that I would be
part of that. That's fucking awesome, man. That really is.
It
That's
really,
so cool.
I swear to God, Adam, I thought about that yesterday because that was the first time I did sidelines in a while. It was last night. And I was like, man, I'm a part of this shit.
Yeah. It's part of the experience. It's unbelievable. That's so cool, man. That's awesome. For real.
Man, man, I don't take none of this for granted, man.
That's awesome. For real, you're good at it. I want to cover one more topic, and it has to do with the sideline and everything. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about social media. So talking about young writers or people trying to get to where you're at, and you just went over your whole story, and it's nothing but grind, building relationships, making, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, all that shit. You understand that. How much is nowadays your total brand, instead of just being a columnist, matters? Because you've talked about value. Everything you do, you say it added value to your brand. How much do you think, do you have to be multifaceted if you want to make it in this game where Chris is on Undisputed? Chris can break the scoop with LeBron. Mm-hmm. Chris can do TNT. He can obviously write. How much do you think that stuff matters, or can you survive just being a really good writer and getting on with a good, publication?
So I'll say this.
Okay.
With social media now, be able to create your own blogs, a YouTube channel, there are other avenues in which you can get, have your work be seen and be discovered. But I still think for the majority of journalists, I wanted to be, when I first got that job from Portland, that's all I wanted to do was be a beat writer. I made it. You see where a little bit where I came from.
Yeah.
I made it.
Yeah.
I made it in life. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Then over the years, other opportunities were presented to me. I really didn't. I wanted to become a national. That was another thing, but I didn't really.
Your main goal wasn't that from the beginning to seek out.
Yeah, to seek out branding, to seek out being a TNT reporter or being on a debate show with Skip and Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
Those opportunities presented themselves, and I did it. People like it, and I continue to do it. This is what I will say. People always come up, hey, I want to be Stephen A. I want to be Skip Bayless.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know Stephen A. for 20 years
was just a writer.
Was a writer.
Yeah, he was just a writer.
Skip Bayless, 30 years, just a writer.
Yeah.
So all these people, unless you're an athlete, but mostly all of these people you see on TV, journalist background, because you have to have that credibility first.
Yeah. Good point.
Because Stephen A. always say that. He'll when he gets mad, he'll bring up, I worked here.
Yeah.
He always bring, I worked here in Louisville. I did this and that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and it's right. But you got to build some, so people want to just get on YouTube and have a take. Everybody can have a take, but it's not a credible take because you ain't been around. You ain't been in locker rooms. Nobody knows you. Yeah. Players don't know you. You don't have any sources. Yeah. So once you establish yourself as a journalist, in which Stephen A. did, Skip Bayless did. Now, you can feel however way you want to feel about them now. Mm-hmm. But they put in the work before.
They grinded.
To get to that point. And same way with myself. Yeah. I didn't seek those things, but it was my credibility and my work that got me in the doors of other avenues. So I would tell people, now look, we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing YouTube sensations and people on TikTok create a brand for themselves.
Yeah, but that's not long lasting, in my opinion.
I don't think so. I think there has to be something of substance.
Yes.
I think you need to, if you want to be in the media, in this profession, I think it would bode well for you to really take this seriously and get in the trenches. And when I mean get in the trenches, that get to become journalism 101.
Yeah.
Find out what it's about. Mm-hmm. Can I tell you about social media real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
This bothers me. This really bothers me. So, the way we grew up out of it, and that's funny. We keep talking about we're not that guy that get off my lawn guy, but I guess we're getting to that point, man. I'm sounding more like him, but the way we were brought up and raised, man. If you were going to talk shit to somebody, you understood that there were consequences,
and you better be ready to back it up.
You better be ready to back it up. And what social media has done, because at first I was like, the younger generation don't understand that because they just were raised in social media, and so they can just spout off and say whatever they want, and no accountability.
Yeah.
But then I was like, nah, because I started looking at some of my tweets, and so I'm gonna give you a little insight. So I did not vote. Julius Randle got 98 of 100 first place votes for most improved player. I didn't have him on my ballot.
Okay.
And I see you, Winston, and your face. I didn't have him on my ballot.
Okay.
Now, I stand by my vote. The reason I didn't have him on my ballot, he averaged 24 and 9 this year. His second best year was 2 years ago, 21 and 6.
Oh.
To me, I've seen this already.
Yeah.
He's done this. Is he a little bit better? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is he most improved? I tend to look at, and it's all about, I guess, how you evaluate it, but I tend to look at who took that big jump from somebody average 8 to 18.
You're like a fringe rotation to like a rotation guy now.
I had Jeremy Grant as my number one.
Okay.
I had Jeremy Grant.
Makes sense.
I had Michael Porter Jr. 2, and I had Chris Boucher in Toronto. I believe Julius Randle averaged 23 times in his career.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of it like that.
Like, most improved. He has a better team. He has a better coach.
Uh-huh.
The coaches, he's up there coach of the year.
Yeah. Tibbs, yeah, absolutely.
So
no question.
So with that, I got a whole bunch of people dogging me. I mean, dogging is being disrespectful. You bitch, you all, all that like type of stuff.
The dumb shit.
And they're men that's older than us.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
And I'm like, and so I went back to, I don't respond. I don't do that. But I did on this one on Instagram. I responded. I said, listen, sir. I said, you can, have a problem with my vote. Mm-hmm. But I said, as a man, and I capitalized man. I said, as a man, don't you think if you would have said that to another man in their face, don't you think there would be consequences behind this?
Yeah.
I said, now as a man, I'm coming to you to tell you that I appreciate you looking at my ballot, but as a man, please refrain from doing that because, let's and he hit me back and he was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't do that, blah blah blah. Yeah, but the thing is, we gotta stop this social media. Like, as men, grown ass men, well, we don't do anything on social. Don't say anything on social media that you wouldn't do publicly in front of that individual's face.
Do you hate the pile-on shit that we have nowadays? To, you know, like it was talking about LeBron earlier, and that's kind of what I was referring to. Like, I think people just sometimes hate him just because it's fun to pile on. Like,
and that's,
people, and that's part of it too. Is people like, you know, you pussy or whatever, and then it would happen to me, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Guys would give me shit, you bum, bust, whatever. And then I know for a fact I'd see him at the bar. Hey man, can I have a picture with you?
All the time. Those,
hey man,
they've never.
What's up, man?
They've never came into your face.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're like, I know what you've said about me, and like, you know, you weren't even honorable mention in high school, man. Shut your fucking mouth.
And that's why,
but I'm not going to say that.
Exactly. You can't say that.
Can't say that.
You can't say it. And that's why, Adam, like sometimes I'll hop in their DMs after I seen them being disrespectful, and I'll be like, "Hey, bro, thanks for checking me out." And then they'll respond back, I can't believe you responded back. Like, and Adam, that goes to my point. Remember I was telling you about earlier, like they don't look at, you're a public figure.
Mm-hmm.
Public figures, they don't look as you as human beings.
No, that's a good point.
Because they don't see you. You know, you're not human beings to them. So when you respond back to them, like to them, they're just shooting something out you. They don't even think you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And they don't think, you know what I mean? Like that's so they have to understand. So that's my point when I stepped into this profession, that you guys have families. You guys are dealing with things in life other than basketball.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I wanted to be cognitive of that. And also be sensitive to that. And me coming and just not knowing what you're going through, just shoving a mic in your face is not going to be helpful for me.
Yeah.
Sure,
well, like I said, and when I first met you, I got a special guest here. 23 points a game at Gonzaga Prep his senior year, 56% field goal shooter his career in high school, 264 steals, 295 assists, 1983-84 WCC Player of the Year. We all know the NBA stuff. John Stockton, I appreciate you coming on. How you doing?
Pleasure. Good to see you, Mo.
Yeah, it's been no, we've seen each other during COVID and stuff, but yeah, it's good to see you and get to talk and sit down a little bit. When did the pro prospect of you actually playing pro like become a reality for you? Like, when did you know, like, I could be a pro?
Probably draft day.
Really?
It was really slow. I know people don't realize that, but my senior year, I wasn't the best player on our team, and two of our best players with little pedigree at that time and had averages and all this stuff got hurt. One broke his fibula, and one broke, that was Bryce McPhee. The other one, Jason Van Oort, blew his ACL. And so we were down to 6 guys. We recruited a intramural guy to play with us.
Yeah, there you go.
So there wasn't much opportunity. And then we played in the Far West Classic. I had a good tournament, and then had a good season, even though we didn't win the league. We kind of made a valiant effort. We down guys. We were in the hunt till the last weekend, et cetera. And so, and as you mentioned, I was awarded MVP of the league, which is rare for 4th place finish or whatever the heck we were. Yeah. Got invited to one tournament. I got invited to Portsmouth, which we had to pay my own way for. I got invited to Chicago, a postseason tournament.
Camp, yeah.
Yep. Didn't get invited to anything. We kind of had to work our way onto them. And then the biggest break I got was Final Four was in Seattle that year. I think it was Houston with Phi Slamma Jamma played Georgetown. Anyway, they do an all-star game during the course of that Final Four, and I wasn't invited. But a guy named Ricky Ross from Tulsa didn't want to risk his draft status, so he backed out at the last minute. And they said, "Oh, who do we have? Who do we have?" It was
close.
Yeah, it was close. Can you get over here in an hour and a half? I said, "I'm there." So I went there, played well in that. Bobby Knight was there watching that game, commentating on it. And when I returned home from that weekend, I had an invitation to the Olympic trials.
Oh, there you go.
And all of a sudden, you can see the things just kind of started falling into place. Now the Olympic trials was brutal, and played pretty decently, I'd say. And then all of a sudden, somebody said, "Hey, you might get drafted." I went, "What?" So until that time, there was never even a thought that it could happen.
You were just thinking of being a 4-year player, and
right.
What'd you major in real quick?
Business,
yeah. What dorms did you stay in?
I didn't.
You didn't? Oh, no. You were home the whole time?
I grew up on campus. I literally walked to school every day. I was closer than I was to my grade school.
So you literally had no clue that you thought you were going to be an NBA player until then, about halfway through your senior season, basically, or your senior year.
Yeah, Dan Fitzgerald, the athletic director and my coach who recruited me, he came up to me after the Far West Classic and said, "Hey, you're a projected 4th round draft choice," which I said, "Wow, they don't even have that anymore."
Yeah, it's only 2 now.
Yeah, I said, "Well, that's awesome," but everybody knew 4th round draft choices don't have a chance to play in the NBA. So I thought that was pretty cool, but that was it.
Wow.
In fact, when he recruited me, his sales pitch to me was, "Look, if you had any chance ever of being in the NBA, you wouldn't be talking to me now." I mean, that was his
Fitzy?
Yeah, that was Fitz. So
Rest in peace, Coach Fitz. I love Coach Fitz. He was he used to do the high school tournaments for us, and I was ball boy when he was still coaching in '95. And yeah, I learned a lot of cuss words from Coach Fitz. His favorite line was, if a guy he would do shooting drills in front of the whole camp. If the guy was shooting shitty, he goes, "Go play soccer. You score once a month. You're the leading scorer of the league." So he used to take kids and put them against the wall, and he'd do this passing drill and be like, "This is how hard you got to throw it." And he would just throw it as hard as you can right in the kid's back. And I'm thinking now, and I'm like, dude, guys would get sued out of the gym like if you did those and those type of drills, nowadays. But Coach Fitz was great. I still can't really believe that. I believe you, John, obviously, but I can't believe that you just weren't considered an NBA player until the back half of your senior year. It's crazy.
Well, I averaged what?
You were 21, I think, in your senior year, right?
Well, that was senior year.
Yeah.
But in a league that wasn't appreciated at all, I mean, never on TV, never anything. My averages, there was nothing about me the year before that would statistically say, "Hey, take a look at this guy, put this on your watch list." So I was on no watch lists or anything, and it's not like today. It was a couple paper publications that came out. It wasn't.
Yeah, no, exactly. You could view players so much easier now. Obviously, everybody's on TV. You could get the Divics and all that stuff. Okay, so you get drafted number 16th by Utah. Frank Layden was your coach. What was it like first going into that camp? What was your mindset coming into the league? Were you still hey, I might not even make this team in your 1st round draft pick?
Well, that's a good question. I first of all, I held out. The minimum salary, I think, in the NBA at that time was $75,000 a year. And I thought if I would have played for nothing, as all of us would say that at some point in time, I would have played for absolutely nothing. And yet you drafted me 16th. So that's 1st round. So that warrants something. So they held tight on that all the way through summer league, all the way through what they called it rookie camp at the time. And they said, "No, that's what you're getting." And I said, "Well, no, we're not signing for that." And that, advice of your agent, all that stuff. And so I sat down with Jeff Condell in the training room with Steve DeLong one day, and I said, "This is rookie camp's going on," and he said, "I think I missed the window." Frank Layden got on ESPN that had just started and said his replacement's in camp right now.
Oh, uh-oh.
It was awful. It was awful. So I said, "I think I missed the window. I blew it."
Yeah.
So a couple of days later, I get a phone call that they were offering $80,000. I said, "I'll take it."
Did you take it? Just $5,000? There you go.
For $5,000.
That's awesome.
Man.
I heard a story, John. Tell me if this is true. Did you have an agent throughout your career, or the back half of your career at all, or did you just use a contract lawyer?
Well, kind of. I did my own agent work. I
guess.
guess.
So you negotiated all your deals?
Not all of them. Probably my 3rd one on.
Yeah. What was that like? Because you had a good relationship with Larry Miller, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so just from a business aspect and thinking of today's negotiations, I just kind of want you to, if you can, walk us through that. Did you say, "Hey, this is what my market is. I know what I'm worth"? I mean, how is that like negotiating your own deals? I just think it's fascinating.
Well, probably a lot more goes into it than you want to hear about. But first couple contracts, I was just glad to have them and didn't change anything. But now I'm a starter.
And your all-star games and
those things are starting to appear, and I'm not even getting years guaranteed. That was kind of a standard is if once you kind of prove yourself, then instead of a 1-year deal with a bunch of
incentives or something,
you get a 5 or 6 year deal, and none of those were happening. So what I did was I hired a very high profile agent, David Falk. Again, a good guy at the time. He was probably the most successful agent in the league. And he took the job, and I think we were negotiating throughout that last contract year, and I heard in the newspaper that I said, "Look, I want to play somewhere else." And that's agents talking. That's them doing their job.
Yeah, you got to do their.
But the moment I heard that, I said, "No, this is not the way this is going to work for me. I don't want people to think that I would say that. I would never say that." And so I told David, I said, "Thank you, but I'm going to just go my own way on this." So he stepped back. I went in and met Larry Miller in his office one day, and he said, "What do you think you're worth? Write it down on a piece of paper." I did it. He wrote on his piece of paper, and we wrote the same number.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if I'd advise that for everybody.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets to deal with Larry Miller, but he's fair and honest, and
Yeah.
there we go.
Well, like I said, I think it's fascinating just to go in there and kind of. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios and Mercedes of Spokane.